You ask me, what kind of AI am I building and what kind of AI do I want to see throughout the world? It's AI that augments human capabilities. It's AI assisted, right? It's helping a human.
Welcome back to Take It Online, where we dive deep into workplace dynamics, exploring how culture shapes the happiness and productivity of employees. I'm your host, Britton Wells, partner and organizational culture advisor of an AI product company in the organizational development space called the Happy Employees. We support executives, CEOs, and HR professionals to establish or reestablish positive, productive, high-performing, and happy work environments. On our podcast, some of the topics will be culture-focused, some will be AI-focused, and some will be focused on how the two intersect. We hope you finish each episode having laughed a little, learned at least a little, and excited to tune into the next episode. If you enjoy our episode, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends and colleagues.
Welcome back to part 2 of AI with CJ. Thank you for coming back to us and listening in. On today's episode, we're going to focus less on AI in general and our ethical concerns. Instead, we're going to dive a little deeper into the healthcare industry in which he currently operates, the dental industry. He's going to talk us through the different applications of an exciting new AI product he supports and ways from a product manager's lens they have been thinking through to ensure it is as bulletproof as possible. Before we get started, I'm going to replay for you CJ's intro so you can be reminded of his professional experience and how he has ended up where he is today. Thanks again for listening today.
CJ, tell me about you.
Yeah. So I've technically been doing software about 13 years. It kind of ages me a little bit. Fell into it accidentally. I was doing improv comedy, and long story short, I needed a real gig. And so I started working at a bank essentially. And what was cool is we did all software projects, front end, back end, internal, customer facing. We even did like branch construction, which actually involved like a bunch of hardware and software and really cool like security, like setting up different mechanisms to prevent frauds, different layouts to prevent robberies. So really fun gig. And that's really where I kind of started getting into tech professionally. But what was interesting is growing up, I've always been into tech. Growing up, me and my buddy would like just take apart electronics and like reassemble them. It was just fascinating to us, which by the way is really, their parents didn't like that when they came home for dinner and, the microwave's on the table, just completely in a million pieces. Yeah, that got us in trouble.
Most interesting story, huh?
Yeah. And then same with, software and stuff. I was always like my family's kind of default IT support because I just played around with software and learned it. So I've kind of had a lifelong passion for it, but it wasn't until about 13 years ago I got into it. And then I went into SaaS from there. So I went to a place called Instructure that does ed tech. Their flagship product is called Canvas. It's where like students take exams, they access their readings. You give the student grades of the teacher and the parents can see it. And I was there about 5 years and it was really cool. I was there when it was still kind of small. We were like the small fish in the market. By the time I left, we IPO'd and we were on track to like overtake the whale in the market. So now it's one of the biggest ed tech software companies in the world.
I've used Canvas before. I was an adjunct professor for a hot minute, and so I'm familiar. Yeah.
Awesome. Did you like it? I always ask people that because there's an asterisk. Did you like it?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty intuitive and pretty user-friendly, especially for, someone who I had taught before, but I had only taught in person. I'd not taught remotely. And so, interestingly enough, living in an RV, traveling the world, and so needed to make some income on the road.
Wow.
And not traveling the world, traveling the country. And so it was nice because it was pretty simple. I mean, not in a negative way, but simple for its user experience for sure.
Yeah, what was kind of genius about it is we built the software in a way that it's basically infinitely expandable. So I say that because some people say that like, oh, there's like 3 things you can do. It's super easy. Yeah. You go in, you access your reading, you see your grades, that's it. Other people, you can add, we call them LTIs, different integrations. You can literally add thousands and all of a sudden it became this Salesforce-like system where you need a bachelor's degree just to use it. So anyways, had a great time there. I moved to Divi. So I went to fintech, kind of back to like financial technology. Same thing with Divi. When I was there, I was kind of one of the OG PMs all the way through acquisition in 2022 by Bill.com, a Silicon Valley company. So I was there about 3.5 years. And then I moved into Jasper, so AI for marketing content. And the last year I've been doing dental AI at a place called Bola AI, essentially voice AI as well as clinical notes. I built a platform for basically you turn on a mic, you talk to the patient, and it creates a super fancy clinical note you could use for insurance.
I have historically also been kind of in the healthcare space. So that's interesting to me because I'm very familiar with a variety of different digital data collection systems and kind of provider type systems, but needing to be a little bit more built out than just housing records, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then just one personal note, outside of work, I'm always nerding out about AI. I literally read like 5 newsletters a day. I play with AI all the time. I'm building an e-commerce app using AI right now on my own, which is dangerous because I'm not an engineer, but I like to party. So we'll see how it goes. So that's where I'm at.
Being in the healthcare sphere, I would love to dive into that a little bit more just on your
Yeah, oh, for sure.
especially you're in the dental sphere currently, right? So I'd like to get a brief explanation of what the product is that you are currently working on and your general thoughts on it and how has it been received.
Yeah. Okay. So I came from Bola AI. They do voice charting and clinical notes. So let me break those down. So you go to your dentist, you go to a new dentist or you've gone to your dentist, it's been a couple of years. They sit you down, they say a bunch of numbers, they're like touching your teeth and they're saying a bunch of numbers and there's someone in the corner writing that down, right? Or typing that into your chart. Essentially, that's called periodontal charting. So they're assessing like your gum health, essentially. And so our technology works. You literally turn on a mic, you just say those numbers, it writes it directly into your practice management software, so where your patient record lives. We also do something called restorative. So same kind of thing. Instead of it having to click 50 times to add 2 cavities and an implant, they literally just say add implant 2.5, add composite filling to 2.3, and it just immediately adds it to the chart. The one I just built that I'm super excited for is a clinical notes solution we call AI Scribe. And essentially the way it works is you go in, you do a procedure. So let's say you did a root canal, a really bad root canal. You had to get a crown. They put a temporary crown. You had to come back a few weeks later. They put a permanent crown on there. So after you leave, the dentist basically walks through. Here's all the drugs they gave them. Here's how they reacted. Here's their allergic reactions they've had in the past, medications. Here's the result of the procedure. And they do that so that they can submit that to the dental insurance companies to basically get a claim approved so that they can get paid. And one thing that kept happening is dental folks were so busy, they would literally tell somebody in the hall, hey, remind me to mention this on this person's chart, or they'd write it on a Post-it, but they won't write down the patient's name. So there's a bunch of errors happening. Or some of the people I talked to, it broke my heart. They would just stay after 2 hours every day and just reconcile all their notes throughout the day. And so essentially you have these either dirty notes that are causing claims to be denied, or you're just spending way too much time on it. And so our goal was basically, first and foremost, was like efficiency, but accuracy is critical in healthcare. What I noticed is very different. And when I was generating marketing content, it could get a couple things wrong, no big deal. In medical dental, like that could impact a patient's health. That can't happen. And so it was a really cool challenge to figure out how our quality bar had to be so high. This AI output's not going to lie to you. It's not going to make anything up. And so way it works today, you've got one template, you literally just turn on the mic and you just start speaking, even if the template's or the patient's there, and or record that entire session. We also have like this fill in the blanks one. So like root canal, for example, you select root canal and you just mention a few things in the context of that root canal, and it will fill out the rest of the note for you. So really, really cool. It's early. I think we've got like 50 customers, but already it's like transforming the way they work.
I will say, as someone who has spent hours doing session notes in my lifetime, the idea of that, I'm like, man, that sounds so nice. I can't even conceptualize just being able to say, this is what happened, this is the data, this is what the result was, and just move on about my day. That would That certainly
Yeah.
revolutionizes a clinician's experience professionally.
Oh, yeah. The other thing I'll add on to that too is like there's a patient education aspect to this too, where as you're saying these things out loud, the patient's going, well, help me understand this. So like one thing we did, for example, all of our templates. So you basically generate your note. It gives you a specific output. It also gives you what we call a patient summary. And that's literally an elementary education level explanation for a non-clinical person.
Oh, that's
And so it's nice because now the clinicians are having to be like, well, this is what a root canal is, or why this is bad, and why we have to fix it. And so I'm really happy just to know that I'm impacting patients in that way.
Have you experienced any concern or pushback from anyone in the dental industry, or has everyone been pretty excited and welcoming of it?
It kind of reminds me of software in general. You have these early adopters that people are just tired of the way they're doing things today, right? Those are the people that are first in line that are like, what I'm doing is not sustainable. It takes way too much time. There's way too many errors. So those are the people that are like raising their hands, like, let's go. The people that are bigger, that been in business 20 years, they have these templates that they've created for, 50 different offices that are under their umbrella. They're going to spend a little bit more time to make sure it's as perfect as possible in terms of integration, in terms of all the features they expect before they kind of jump on board. And so it's very similar to software in that way, and even AI, right? There's a lot of people that are just not comfortable yet, even though it's pretty user friendly. It's going to take more time and momentum to kind of convince them, like, okay, this is the way it's done now, right?
And I feel
I'd
like
say that,
what you just
yeah.
described is going to revolutionize organizations' ability to recruit, right? Those that are early adopters
Mhm.
of something like this, to be able to say, we've reduced your non-billable time by 80% because we have adopted this AI software that can essentially support all of this non-billable time for you. I mean, I know
Yep.
for me, that would be something that I'd be like, yes, 24 hours of billable time and 3 hours of non-billable time versus 10 or 15 hours of non-billable time when you're
Exactly.
getting hounded for increasing that billable time, but still wanting to maintain sanity at work.
Exactly. And that's really it, right? We make your life easier, we make you look more professional. It also kind of makes the clinicians sound cool. When patients go, what are you using? I go, I'm using AI right now. They're like, my dentist is cutting edge, right? And that's what we want to go for.
And CJ, on following up on that same
Mhm.
product, right? Like the pushback is more in terms of adopting the technology aspect, but what about the concerns related AI understanding the patient's health condition completely, and like there's a security, data privacy aspects
Mhm.
related to it, and I love the product the way you are saying that it's helping educating them, right? Doctors can actually explain the patients what's really happening, but was there any other pushback from the patient side or doctor saying that AI is learning all of this? Can it assume something? Can it give hallucinations? How were you? What kind of education or what kind of concerns came through in terms
Mhm.
of AI providing a wrong information about a treatment and creating some kind of hallucinations?
Yeah, so a couple of things. We're actually using a medical dental model. So we're not just like using, Chat GPT to like do your transcripts, for example. We're actually using multiple technologies. So that's part of it is like using a model that actually has a lot of dental terminology, spellings, medications, right? And there's always room for improvement. So one tool in our tool belt, we can do what we call dictionary updates. And that's where we literally train the model on a word. So you said it this way, it's wrong. It should be said this way. And we basically do, 50 examples of that. As soon as we get enough examples that the model goes, I get it, it will start to always spell it correctly in the transcripts, for example. So that's kind of one common thing with voice AI. Another one I'll mention that's kind of funny is like accents, the regional differences. So Louisiana English versus British English are interpreted differently. And so we've got to train our model on all those different accents and dialects. So that's just kind of more work for us. The only other one that kind of comes top of mind is like HIPAA, anything medical, anything dental. We actually just avoid that completely. So essentially, our tool captures it. You copy and paste that in your practice management software. We don't save any patient information. We don't store any of that in any databases. And so that's how we basically remain HIPAA compliant. Someday, I'm sure we'll go down that path and figure out how to do it in a way that is still compliant, but we're capturing that key information. And so kind of starting more risk averse on the HIPAA side, but that's common because really big hospitals, really big dental associations, they're going to look at that first and foremost and be like, that has to be bulletproof.
That's really cool. From a product manager lens, thinking about
Mhm.
building the products, always our goal is also to think about the consumers, the users as such. How do you balance the AI anxiety and the human judgment aspects in building a product? At the same time, like what is that one suggestion if you have to tell non-technical people in understanding the AI? How should they perceive that information? What type of questions they should ask themselves?
That is a really interesting question. Got a lot of thoughts there. One principle I love in my job is just be intentional. And when I say that, what I mean is think through everything, even if it's just a button. Did you really think about why that should work that way, why it's that color? It's the same with AI. One thing I tried to do in dental is we would basically come up with use cases for trying to break it. So I want this dental model to teach me to code, right? And there's different fail safes you can put in place, different ways you can train and prompt the AI model so it goes, nope, all I can do is dental. And so, for example, just to be silly, I kept testing our dental model on telling like fairy tale stories. And in the beginning, I was able to trick it, and it started telling me stories about dragons. I'm like, don't do that. It eventually got to the point where it would actually just tell you an error. It'd be like, sorry, I need clinical content. And so a lot of it is that. A lot of that's setting the expectation with the user on what this specific AI tool is and where are its limits. We had the same problem at Jasper. We had a bunch of people that wanted to learn how to code using a marketing AI template. There are other tools out there. And so I think from a product management lens, think about those failure paths. Think about those use cases that are unintentional that you don't want people to do, and then account for that. Build an error message, build a path that basically elegantly directs them, okay, well, actually you should be doing this. This is what I want you to do with our tool. And so that would be kind of my simple thought there. Be intentional, account for those use cases you want to avoid.
This was awesome, CJ. Thank you so much for all of your input and knowledge. It was certainly enlightening for me and exciting for me also, just someone who's lived in the healthcare space for quite some time, just new ways that this is generating just exciting new technology for people in a good way, right? To enhance our human experience, not replace it.
Love it.
Join me, Britton Wells, and the rest of us at the Happy Employees as we embark on this exploration of Take It Online. Whether you're an HR professional, a business leader, or simply curious about what makes great workplaces tick, this podcast is for you. Thank you for tuning in to our latest episode. Until our next episode, remember, a positive culture is not just a goal, it's a journey. Taking it offline hides feedback and stifles progress. Keep it open. Take it online.